And if you look at the AfD in the West, like a figure like Alice Weidel, who's the co-leader of the AfD, you wouldn't put her in the same category as Björn Höcke, who is who is also West German, by the way. Like Björn Höcke deliberately uses Nazi terminology and things to. Why he does it is unclear. Is he doing it to try and just create a kind of shitstorm, to try and create this kind of outcry? Is he using it in a calculated way that that is attempting to create some kind of reaction from like the West German establishment, so that he can then say, "Look at them, they're persecuting me. I didn't know I was using these things." Or is he signaling to neo-Nazis or the right-wing extremists I believe the same things you believe in,
or maybe both.
Perhaps both at the same time. So he does that, and I don't, that's not something that Alice Weidel has done, and I'm sure there are examples of it, but I don't know of it being certainly a tactic of the top of the AfD in West Germany, that they would kind of deploy Nazi codes like that. There's ones who would just say are more conservative. Höcke gets a lot of attention, but I've talked to AfD people in the East who, last year I was in Schwerin for the mayoral elections there, and I was talking to their candidate. His name slipped me, but he's also an MP in the Bundestag, like a member of the Bundestag. Leif Erik Holm. And on the first day I was there, I went to kind of where they had their campaign stand, and the people who are coming and talking to them, who I chatted to, that obviously like sort of
far right extremism,
very far right, But I went for coffee with the guy the next day, and I talked to him for an hour.
He didn't seem so extreme, or
I would say that he's like a very conservative figure, but I think he used to be in the CDU.
Okay,
we were talking about like Russia, for instance, and he was saying Russia's not really. It's not really an issue that he like makes a big deal about, and there's some people who are his supporters who are quite quite critical of Russia, and others who are supportive of it. But it wasn't something he wanted to make a big deal of when he was talking to me. And
but I understand that sometimes not all of them go with a full agenda that the AfD. Some of them also are voting for the AfD because of one or two policies that they want. But in your view, how dangerous is that? Is AfD a real danger, even if people are voting for them just for one or two policies that they might agree with?
What do we mean by the AfD is a danger?
Everyone says that is a danger for democracy. Social media or some newspapers, they say that they're putting the democracy, or it's a threat for democracy.
Yeah.
In which sense they mean that?
That's hard to tell, because I think that you don't want to get too hysterical about it. It's hard to kind of navigate the place between hysteria about the AfD and trivializing what they are. I think there's no evidence that I've seen that they want to bring an end to German democracy, and that's where I always have a problem with the comparisons to fascism or to the 1930s, because I'm pretty clear that Hitler hated democracy, and he was quite open about that. And the AfD, in some sense, they're a party that have their own party rules, where delegates go and they vote on party policy. And if you look at their party program, on their national party program, it's like like right wing. It's like further to the right of the CDU, but it's not like calling, for the establishment of a Fourth Reich or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, but, I mean, that's the other thing. They would be banned if they did do that. I mean, it's the hard thing. It's hard to tell because of the way Germany's set up. They would be banned if they
said anything related to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any party that calls for an end to the German constitutional system can be banned. So there's also a sort of a problem of this thing of it's hard to know how honest they're being because they need to play by the rules so that they don't. So there's not.
They know what they shouldn't say. At
the same time, you could just say, well, they know they have to act within the law, and whatever you think about their policy positions, let's take the example of remigration. This, maybe your listeners have heard of this thing, remigration, which back in January there was a newspaper investigation into a sort of secret meeting. That sort of word is a bit controversial in the German press, but how secret it was. But like this kind of meeting between AfD members, there was also some CDU members there, and this Austrian far right figure who's the head of the identitarian movement there. And the kind of topic of his speech was this thing, remigration, which is a terminology the AfD use as well. Like if you go out to Brandenburg now, it's all over their campaign posters. What they say they want is like remigration back to Syria or remigration back to Afghanistan. And they go into detail about what they mean by that. Now we're going to get into the complexities of German law, asylum law, but several million people that have come to Germany over this last decade who are sort of irregular migrants, and they have, some have protection because they're personally persecuted or personally face persecution. Others have protection because they are fleeing from a civil war. Others are just here because they can't be deported because of the security situation in their countries. Each of these things come with different rules. So there's this big category called subsidiary protection. And it's something that was created within the EU, I think about 10 years ago, to classify all of these new people who were coming, from Syria in around 2015, who who didn't face a personal risk of persecution, but who Europe decided to give protection to because of the disastrous security situation in their country. Subsidiary protection you actually only get for a year, and then you have to keep renewing it. And the AfD say in their program, if I'm not mistaken, that subsidiary protection for these people should end, and then they should be remigrated back to Syria. So they're advocating the deportation of hundreds of thousands of people back to Syria. And now you can say that this is awful, and the actual practical. I mean, if you just need to think for a few seconds about what it would mean practically to just think. Obviously, it would be a terrible idea. That's a different thing to saying that within the boundaries of German law that it's the question of its legality.
But it implies that they want to change the law in order to make it happen, or that's what the plan would mean, right?
No, that's not true, because subsidiary protection is constantly up for review, and that's there's an interesting thing going on under the surface in Germany at the moment, and the court system, it's up to the court system to answer these questions of whether the security situation in a country allows for deportations back there. So, and that goes for Afghanistan and also Syria. And it's really important here because the government says that it's okay now to deport criminals back to Afghanistan and Syria.